In today's daily halacha, we will discuss the issur involved of laundering and washing clothing throughout the period of the 9 days. So we all know that the general issur is that one may not launder or wash his clothing during the 9 days. There are many details that require clarification regarding this issur. Before we begin going into details, let's discuss first the source of this issur. So unlike other customs that we've already discussed and that we are accustomed to follow during the 3-week period, the issur of laundering clothing is an issur min hadin. It is not just a custom that we took upon ourselves. According to Talmudic law, it's actually an explicit mishnah in Tainus, Daf Chavav Beis. It states that on the week that Tisha B'Av falls in, it is forbidden to take a haircut and to launder clothing. So the letter of the law prohibition, the Talmudic law prohibition, is specifically the week that Tisha B'Av falls in, and this is what the Mechaber in Shulchanaruchharav.com Gimel records. The Ramah, however, adds in 2 different halachas, in Sif Gimel and in Sif Daled, that the custom of Ashkenazi Jewry is to add to this prohibition that it should apply from the start of the 9 days. So therefore, the Ashkenazi custom is to forbid laundering all clothing beginning from the 9 days. And again, the reason behind this prohibition and this custom that we took upon ourselves in Ashkenaz is because of the verse of the statement of Chazal, Mishenichnas av ematim nesimcha, which is actually brought in that same Mishnah directly prior to the prohibition that's mentioned regarding laundering. So therefore, we became accustomed to do it beforehand. What does this prohibition include? So it says in the Gemara, and the Mechaber brings it down in Shulchan Aruch, that it includes even washing clothing for wearing after Tisha B'Av, which is a bit of a novelty because you will not even benefit from the laundering until the mourning period is over. Nonetheless, it is forbidden. And the reason for this is because the idea isn't just that we should diminish in pleasure in having fresh clothing, but also that you shouldn't remove your mind from the avelos. As laundering is something that takes time, all the women know this, it's something that takes energy, every woman looks forward to Ish Chodesh, and because of this, it removes the mind from being settled on the avelos. And that's why, even if it's after Tisha B'Av, it is forbidden. The Mechaber adds another novelty, that this prohibition is not only towards clothing that we wear on our skin. It applies equally to other types of clothes, such as towels, a tablecloth, and even the linen of one's bed. It is forbidden to launder any of these items during the period of the 9 days. Regarding washing children's clothing, children obviously get their clothing dirty a lot more often than do adults, and this question is very relevant during this period. So in Sif Yud Daled, the Mechaber brings down that just as it is forbidden for a gadol to wash his clothing, so too it is forbidden for a gadol to wash the clothing of a child. And the reason for this is because, as the Magen Avram brings, that this is what's called Avelos Farhetsya. It is public mourning, and therefore even children must be joined within this public mourning. However, the Ramah immediately brings down over there that those clothing of children that get dirty extremely often, such as the clothing that small toddlers get dirty through going to the bathroom, they may be washed as is necessary during this period of time, even the week that Tisha B'Av falls in. This heter applies. And the Ramah then concludes an interesting conclusion. He says, and the custom is to wash even clothing of other children, meaning that the Ramah backs and justifies washing other children's clothing, even if they are not the clothing that are getting dirty from urine and feces of a toddler. So, bottom line, lahalacha, practically lahalacha, all children's clothing that are normal to get dirty, and they get dirty often, and one does not have any more left. He does not have to go to the store and buy more. He does not have to borrow. He can launder them. However, the Magen Avram limits this to 2 points. The Magen Avram in Sif Katan, Lamed Tes, writes that number one, it has to be done in private. So most people don't have washing machines in public anyways, but hanging the laundry should be done in private. So if you're hanging dry your laundry, you should do it in a line in an area that it is not visible to the public. A second point the Magen Avram there mentions, and is brought down la halacha in Poiskin, is that a person may not add more clothing than necessary. It's not that just because we've started a cycle, so now we can throw in more. Only what is necessary for this specific child or for the group of children that ran out of clothing or the specific type of clothing, may it be washed. Not for anyone else. Regarding adults, what does an adult do if he has ran out of socks, ran out of undergarments, ran out of shirts? Is he allowed to launder them? So from the simple learning in the Shulchanaruch and the Neitzekelim, we don't really find any heter for adults to wash any clothing. In fact, the Mechaber in Sif Gimel adds over there that it is forbidden to wash the clothing during the week of Tisha B'Av, even if one only has one shirt and it has become dirty. Nonetheless, the later Achonim, the Mishnah Brura, the Chaya Adam, the El Yerabah, the Kaf HaChaim, all bring down that prior to the week of Tisha B'Av, the Raz Ashkenazim are stringent to avoid laundering. Since it is only a custom, we can be lenient until the week of Tisha B'Av, meaning practically until Shabbos begins this week. We can be lenient that if someone owns one shirt and that shirt has become dirty, such as become sweaty and he can't wear it anymore, then he can launder it. Well, most people today own more than one garment, so how does this really apply to us? So the Malaktim discuss this question, and they write as follows, that if a person's undergarments, meaning the clothing that usually becomes sweaty in today's day and age, they change daily, and they have become dirty, and he has ran out of them, he does not have to go to the store and buy more, up until the week of Tisha B'Av, which is this Shabbos, a person is allowed to launder those undergarments, such as socks, undershirts, etc., that he has run out of naturally. Regarding shirts is not so simple. It depends. If a person is a very sweaty person and he's called an istinus, someone who is very finicky about wearing dirty or slightly smelly shirts, and he has ran out of shirts, then he can also be lenient regarding shirts to launder them during this time. However, in general, with shirts we are not as lenient, and we don't give them the same gedder, the same definition as clothing that constantly get dirty, but again, this would depend on the person. With regards to ironing clothing, the issur of laundering clothing includes ironing, so one may not iron shirts or any other clothing during the 9-day period. Regarding washing clothing for Erev Shabbos, for the sake of Shabbos, if a person does not have any Shabbos clothing available that are clean, then it is brought down that the person is allowed to wash those clothing on Thursday or Friday for the sake of Shabbos. This is brought down in the Magen Avram, Sifkat Yudavon, and the Mishnah Brura Lamed Beis. The question is asked regarding ironing. Can a person iron clothing for Shabbos? So logically, we would say that no, because the shirt is perfectly wearable without ironing it, so why should you be allowed to iron it? But in truth, since the whole idea is to do it l'kavod Shabbos, for the respect of Shabbos, if the shirt is wrinkled and it's embarrassing, a person may be lenient to iron it on Thursday or Friday in respect and honor of Shabbos. So rules the Nitzei Gavriel. We will now begin a number of questions of details regarding this prohibition. We don't have enough time to go in length into them, and anyone who desires can look in our written section online to look into the greater details. Regarding washing a stain off, meaning not to wash the whole garment, but simply to put some water and stain removal on a stain on a shirt, etc., it's brought down in Paiskim that it is forbidden to do so, as there's no differentiation between this type of laundering and any other type of laundering. Regarding using a dryer, there is no prohibition in using a dryer during the 9 days, as it's not considered laundering, it's simply drying a piece of clothing. So if the clothing got wet, fell into a puddle, if it rained, it is permitted to place them in a dryer. Regarding washing and braiding a sheitel, it has the same din as does laundering, as it is considered like a clothing, and therefore a woman may not wash or send her sheitel for washing or for braiding and ironing during the period of the 9 days. So it was brought down in the Piskei Shuvas. With regards to polishing shoes, the Igros Moshe rules that it is permitted for a person to polish his shoes with polish in order to blacken it, etc., with the color, not for shining purposes. And he does not see any reason why doing so would be mutter, meaning he does not find a precedent to state that this would be usher under any one of the prohibitions involved with laundering. Thank you for joining us. Emir Hashem, we will continue tomorrow with another daily halacha.